Hello, how's it going? Zach D Productions here, and I'm here for a list video for you guys. This is a throwback list video, so it's been a while since I've done one of these, but for this video, I want to go over my personal favorite rock and metal albums from the year 2014. Now, I think 2014 was a decent year for music. Probably not one of the best years for music of the last decade, but there's been some very solid stuff to come out that year. So in this video, we'll just be naming 5 of these albums. These are basically my top 5 albums of the year 2014. So let's go ahead and get started. And this list is also in no particular order, by the way. So the first album up is by Asia, and that's their album Gravitas, if I said that correctly. But yeah, it's a decent album. It's definitely not one of their best, but still solid though. The first half of this album is especially very good. Now, the second half of this album, it does lack replay value, not gonna lie, but, you know, still a good album overall. I mean, especially with the first few tracks, like Valkyrie, very good song that's very fun and catchy. Title track's pretty good, and you also got The Closer I Get to You, pretty good song as well. But yeah, Gravitas by Asia. This was also their final album. I'm not sure what's going on with Asia nowadays, but yeah, of course, rest in peace to John Wetton. And I think John Wetton does have a very good voice. If you didn't know, he was involved in King Crimson for a little bit. But yeah, very good vocalist. So Gravitas by the band Asia. Asia's a very underrated band as well, in my opinion. But yeah, that album, pretty good. Not their worst, but also not their best. So next, we got something a little heavier. This album here is by the band Overkill, and that is White Devil Armory. Yeah, again, not their best, but also not their worst either. Probably not the best of their most recent stuff, but still very good, I think. I don't think Overkill has ever released a bad album. But yeah, some favorites on this album for me, probably Armorist, Down to the Bone, and Freedom Rings. Very good songs for sure. There's actually some riff work in Freedom Rings that does remind me of one of the songs from Metallica's Kill 'Em All. I don't know which song it is, but there's a riff in this song that does remind me of a riff from the Kill 'Em All album. But yeah, I mean, they might have taken some inspiration from Metallica, but who knows. But yeah, good album for sure by Overkill, and yeah, if you like thrash, definitely worth checking out. So this next album here is by Judas Priest, Heavy Metal Legends, of course. Rob Halford is arguably one of the best metal vocalists out there, and he still sounds great today. I mean, just listen to the last few albums from Judas Priest. He still has it. But this album here is Redeemer of Souls, which I definitely think is a step up from the album that came before, which is called Nostradamus, which I do think is honestly one of their worst albums. Definitely a step up for sure. I even have my days where I'd rather listen to this album than Firepower. Now, I do think Firepower is probably the best of their more recent stuff, but this album here is still very good, and I think a lot of fans can agree that, yeah, it's a good album for sure. Of course, you have Dragonaut, the title track, Halls of Valhalla. You also got Battle Cry, Metalizer. A lot of good stuff on this album for sure. So there you have it. Redeemer of Souls by Judas Priest. Pretty good album. Once again, not one of their best, and I think a lot of people can agree that it's not one of Judas Priest's best albums. You know, it doesn't come anywhere near their classic era, but still very good, I'd say. So this next album here is by Demon Hunter, very underrated band. Recently saw these guys live, and they're very good live. Definitely one of the best shows I've ever been to. So the album that Demon Hunter released in 2014 is Extremist, and not sure how popular this opinion is, but I do think that this is one of their best albums. There's a lot of fans that do say that this is, well, not necessarily their worst, but closer to the bottom of their ranking or whatever, but I don't know, maybe it has to do with this being the first Demon Hunter album I've ever purchased, and the first one that I've actually listened to in full. So maybe it just has to do with nostalgia or whatever, but yeah, and around this time was when I did get into Demon Hunter as well. This was like the newest album that was out at the time whenever I got into them, so this was the only one that was available at FYE, and that's why it was my first Demon Hunter album. Because I remember when I was in FYE at the time, I wanted a Demon Hunter CD and I just didn't care which one it was, so I just grabbed the one that they had, which was this one. And yeah, I still think it's a strong album. Again, I do think it's one of their best, at least in my opinion. Honestly, maybe my favorite album of 2014. I know that opinion might be rather unpopular, but that's okay. I think all the songs on this album are great. Now, yes, there's songs better than others, and there are some songs on the album that I don't return to a lot, but this album is great. I mean, some of my favorites on the album would be Artificial Light, What I'm Not, I Will Fail You, Cross to Bear, which is maybe one of their heaviest songs, In Time, which I think is kind of an underrated song from these guys, Gasoline and Heart of the Graveyard are pretty good. But yeah, lots to like with this album. Good mix of heaviness and melody. I mean, that's what you get on here. Very good sounding modern metal, basically. So, Extremist by Demon Hunter. So the last album up is by Linkin Park. Rest in peace to Chester Bennington. The Hunting Party. Some say it's a return to form for the band. Now, I can definitely understand where that statement is coming from for sure, but I wouldn't really call it necessarily a return to form, because yes, even though this album does lean closer to Linkin Park's classic sound compared to the previous two albums did, I don't think that's really saying much. This might even be their heaviest album. I don't know. I still think it's a very good album, though. I do think that this, at the time, was Linkin Park's best album since Minutes to Midnight. Yeah, very good album. I mean, you have Keys to the Kingdom, Guilty All the Same. I really like the drum work, especially in Guilty All the Same. It's really good. You also have Until It's Gone and Rebellion. And you also have A Line in the Sand. Really good closing track for sure. But yeah, again, maybe Linkin Park's heaviest album. And even in saying that, I still don't really think it's a return to form, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a return to form in order for it to be a good album from Linkin Park. Now, yes, I would say that the first three albums are definitely their best, but this album here, The Hunting Party, still a very good album. Well, there you have it. That's a list of, in my opinion, the top 5 best rock and metal albums of 2014, so let me know what you guys think. Have you listened to these albums? What do you think of them? And what albums would you say are some of the best of 2014? Feel free to let me know. So on that note, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Take care.